And so let's get into the article then. Yeah, the Asch conformity experiment revisited. Basically, long story short, I used to believe in the Asch experiments, and that was because I wanted to believe. And I think we can use the Asch experiments as a case study of something where it might fit our preconceived beliefs or it might fit our desires to believe in it. But ultimately, when we spend the time to look into it, it turns out it's just as phony baloney as just about anything else in science. It's a complete load of balderdash, in my opinion. And that's another thing I should emphasize as well. Nothing that I do on my website or on my platform is meant to be me telling you that I'm definitely right or that you have to agree with me. No. I will share my opinion, and in some instances, I'll share my evidence. In some instances, I'll share my evidence or my reasoning, such as with you guys on the website. But realistically, I've got so many opinions, I can't sit here and prove to you, realistically, any of them. I can't prove to you or prove to anyone that I'm correct. All I can do is show you why I'm saying what I'm saying. If you agree, great. If you disagree, you've got questions, great. We can agree to disagree, that's great as well. If you really want, some people want to set up a debate with me, as long as they tell me they want a debate, we can do that as well. But this kind of material, I'm just sharing with you my perspective, and you just take from that whatever you want. Even if you want to disagree at the end, that's totally cool. So let's take a look at the article then. And if you are watching this or listening to this and you want to go and check out the article, it is at johnlebon.com, and it's called the Asch Conformity Experiment Revisited. So whether you're watching a video or listening to a podcast, I do recommend that if you haven't already read the article, you go and check it out, because nothing that I say or show you on screen or talk about on the audio version of this can possibly replace the written part. So I'm not planning to read it out verbatim, but I will go over each section and just give a general gist of it, and we'll just go from there. So the Asch experiment, this is the overview. The Asch experiment is a key plank of Act Realm lore. And of course, Act Realm, alternative, conspiracy, truth realm. I call it the Act Realm. Some people call it conspiracy culture. Some people call it the truth movement or the awakening movement or red pill or whatever you want to call it. Just this idea that there's the mainstream, the TV with the news and the newspapers and the mainstream radio that generally all parrot the same story and the same version of events. And then you've got this other thing that is alternative media, which can be anything from people like myself, independent operations, through to larger operations that at least have a different opinion on things, and anything in between. So you, even just by consuming this content for at least the next 30, 40, 50 minutes, whatever, you are consuming Act Realm content. I am part of the greater Act Realm, even though personally I consider what I do to be completely different from most of the other Act Realm outlets or personalities. The Act Realm just means this conspiracy culture. And the Asch experiment is a key plank of much of what you'll hear people say in the Act Realm. Because so goes the story, back in the 1950s, a researcher named Solomon Asch proved that although people will conform like sheep in the face of group consensus, a lone voice of reason can break the spell of groupthink. In other words, if one person in a group stands up for the truth, then the others will begin to do so as well. And so you can see why this appeals to many people in the Act Realm, especially those who want a good fix of hopium. Because what it's basically saying is, hey, yeah, the masses do conform, but watch what science has proven. If one person in the group stands up to the group and goes against the conformity, other people will do the same thing. And so this can be very energizing for people. It can make them think, hey, it's worth it to go against the herd because then other people will. Or even better, hey, this is great. I can sit on my ass and watch this guy make YouTube videos, and because he's standing up to the herd, eventually other people in the herd will speak up for the truth as well. Which is, of course, the more common thing that we see. There's far more people who sit on YouTube and listen to these sorts of podcasts and think, yep, good work's being done and I'm helping just by thumbsing up, right? That's their idea of going against the herd. What they really want is a lightning rod or somebody else to do the hard work of actually going against the herd. But they're allowed to believe, because that person this is going to change the system, or this is going to lead to a mass awakening or something like this. So you can see why the Asch experiment meme appeals to people, and I can tell you it appealed to me when I first heard it, maybe 4 years ago now. We'll talk about that later in this video/podcast. But yeah, it appealed to me because I liked this idea, because I could see, even when I was early in this scene, look at everybody, they're conforming, they're going with the herd, but there's this small group of people, the truth movement on the internet, and they're speaking up against the conformity and the lies. So it's only a matter of time until more people start to do the same thing. And hey, it's worth me going against the herd and sort of copying the abuse that comes with that. Because if I do that, it's only a matter of time until other people do the same thing. And hey, we've got this scientific experiment that supports this suggestion. So yeah, I fell into Asch belief as well back in the day. Yes, I write that I once fell for the Asch experiment meme myself back in my more conspiratarded days. I now see things for what they are. And it was a recent video by a popular YouTube actor that prompted me to finally produce this video or this article. And so that's what I do. I go into more detail about the Asch experiments in this article, and that's what we're going to be doing today in this podcast/video. And for the rest of this video/podcast, I'm just going to say video, but again, I'm really going to try and tailor what I say and do for the audio only. So you can watch the video if you want, but you're not going to be missing anything too much if you just listen as a podcast. So by the end of this piece, you will have a better understanding of why the Asch experiment meme is a load of nonsense, why the original Asch experiment itself is of questionable value, how the scientific process actually works, because there's a lot of people in this scene who clearly either never went on to tertiary studies, that is college or university, or they did go, but they just weren't paying attention. Or maybe they went so long ago that they've since fried their brains and they've forgotten. But the scientific process is straightforward, and if it's followed properly, it's actually a sensible way to try and learn about the world. But how many school leavers, how many high school leavers have the first idea about the scientific process? Almost none. I took chemistry and physics in senior high school. I couldn't have told you the scientific process from start to finish, and it's a basic 5 or 6 step process depending how sort of specific you want to be, but the basic process from observe and theorize right through to hypothesize and test, all of these concepts, all of these ideas, these basic steps, I couldn't have gone through them with you from start to finish. I could have told you plenty about atomic theory. I could have told you plenty about basic physics after taking chemistry and physics. But the scientific process and how it works, especially at university level or college level, I couldn't have told you anything about as a high school leaver. Even as a university graduate, I couldn't have told you anything about it. I've had to learn about it over the last few years as I've been trying to get my head around, well, hold on, what is the official story of this? What is the official story of that? I've had to go back to basics and, as a layman, learn from the start, because there's heaps of learning resources out there now. Anybody who wants to learn about this stuff can do so. There's even college lectures that you can see from prestigious colleges for free now. There are some prestigious universities and colleges that make their lectures and their classes free. So if you want to learn, you can. You won't get a piece of paper, but you can learn. So the information's out there, but if you don't put the time in to learn about it, how are you going to know? So in this piece, we go through that scientific process directly. We look at, well, what is it? What is the purpose of it? Why is it so useful when it's applied properly? How is it actually applied in modern academia? And this is very useful, not just for learning about the Asch experiment, but for learning about anything that these so-called experts have to tell us. So we'll also speak about why modern academia is a joke and why this fact is seldom discussed. And it's not a secret, okay? Within academia, people know about the replication crisis. People know that you can't actually replicate the majority of the social science studies that are peer-reviewed. In other words, people know about this in academia, okay? And as someone who went through university, spent several years there, I can tell you people know about this. It's not a secret, but it's not in their interests to shout this from the rooftops to the layman, to the regular people. Okay, it's not in their financial interests. It's not in their psychological interests. But this isn't a secret. So what I'm going to be doing in this video and what I do in this article is I go through the evidence that, yeah, what you think the peer-reviewed process is, it's a joke. And that's not just my opinion. This is known, but it's kept, I wouldn't even say swept under the rug. It's more just sort of ignored. It's the elephant in the room. They just ignore the elephant. So the academics know what's happening. They know the elephant's there. They ignore him. The masses are oblivious. So when you tell them, oh, the experts have proven this or the experts know that, they're thinking, well, they're experts. They've got a peer review process. But the experts themselves know that the peer review process, so we'll be talking about that in this piece as well. And then finally, how you can use this information to improve your own life. Because again, my main purpose is purely to entertain, to give you something to watch or to read or to listen to entertain you. That's my primary purpose. However, you can learn good information. And in my time in this ACT realm, I've learned a heap of good information from various people and from reading various books and with talking to various people. And I've come to learn some very useful things that have improved my life in many ways. And so I do hope that in some of the work that I do, some people will be able to use this information going forward to actually improve their life. So by the end of this article, you'll have a better understanding of why the Asch experiment meme is a load of nonsense, why the original Asch experiment itself is of questionable value, how the scientific process actually works, or how it should work in the ideal world, why modern academia is a joke and why this is seldom discussed, and how you can use all of this information to improve your own life. So let's move on to the contents. There's 12 parts to this at the moment. There's the background, my previous belief, how I see things today, science and academia, the scientific process, the utility of studies, because studies are still useful, especially when they follow the scientific process. Studies are very useful, if for no other reason than to get us to question what we think we know. So if anyone's sitting there watching this or listening to this thinking, oh, JLB's anti-academia, far from it, okay? Some of the most important lessons I ever learned, I learned in academia, specifically learning about logic. And this was in first year philosophy studies, would you believe? I was taking logic classes, and that was the first time anybody had ever pointed out to me directly, this, what you just did, that's an ad hominem. You've attacked the man and not his argument. That's crap. That's not welcome here, okay? That was the first time I had someone explain to me what a straw man argument is. No, see, what you've done is you've taken what that guy said, you've kind of changed it a little bit, then you've mocked it. And that might seem smart, but that's shit, right? The first time someone pointed this out to me properly was in a first year philosophy class studying logic. Okay, now I learned that in academia. Now you definitely don't have to go to university or college to learn about logic or these kinds of things. In fact, I've already released for free several pieces on these topics myself, and I've released to the members of my site other pieces as well talking about these concepts. So you don't need to be in academia to learn these things, but I personally did learn some good things in academia, so I'm not anti-academic at all. We'll talk about that as well. The Asch experiment, the sources. Okay, now here's where we get into the meat of what we're going to be talking about. What are the sources for the Asch experiments? Because you'll hear lots of people talking about, oh, the Asch experiments did this or they did that or blah, blah, blah. What you'll rarely hear them speak about is, well, what was the actual experiment? So Asch conducted it. Where did he conduct it? What was the sample size? Where did he publish it? These kinds of things, you generally won't hear people discuss this stuff. And in fact, I have to confess that until I put together this article in December of last year, so a few weeks ago, actually it took me 2 weeks to write this article. I thought it would take 2 days, and because I'd already done the preliminary research, but one thing led to another. This always happens. So it took 2 weeks. So until December of last year, I didn't know what the studies were. I knew of one, but there was more than I thought. And then I had to download them. I had to find them. Then I had to download them, read through them, get my head around what they were saying, realize that what had been represented as Asch experiment kind of wasn't the Asch experiment. And anyway, we'll talk about all of that later in this piece. The real Asch experiment. Okay, so what I found, here's where it gets really interesting. I found an Asch experiment recreation, and well, I don't want to say too much, but Anyway, so part 7 we'll talk about the Asch experiment sources. Part 8 I'll talk about the real one and what it actually says. And then we'll talk about how the experts, the academics themselves, say the Asch experiments are being completely misrepresented. You're being told that they're proof that one person can go against the group in the face of mass conformity. Actually, that's not what the experiment even said, even if you take it on face value. And then part 11, this is the real interesting bit. This is where I found other Asch experiment recreations by other people. Not by Asch, but by other people. And that's where things get very interesting. And then in part 12, we will wrap it up as quick as we can. So that's the contents that you can look forward to in the rest of this piece. Again, this is JLB member video number 18, the first of 2019. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this at the start, but I'm recording this on January 5, 2019. This is a Saturday night for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up the YouTube upload there. If you want to see the rest of this, just head along to johnlebon.com. This piece will be available from tomorrow, from the 6th of January 2019, to members of johnlebon.com. And you can sign up right now. There's more than 100 hours of exclusive content, including pieces that look specifically at logic and why logic is not taught at school. I cover everything from the hoaxes, the baby hoaxes, the little media events that are fake, through to the toddler hoaxes like the moon landings and Osama bin Laden, and then you work your way up the hoax hierarchy. I've got material covering all of that. But what's better than my material is the member calls. Basically once a week, myself and whichever members of the site want to turn up on that particular weekend. It can be anywhere from myself and one other person through to 6 or 7 other people on the panel. And what we do is we either discuss one topic that is planned ahead of time, such as 1984, the book, or such as the number 23, the film, or such as, say, a large figure in the act realm. We'll talk about a prominent person and some of their work and go through it. And so we cover a range of topics in the pre-planned calls. But then we also have calls that are not planned at all. Just any member can turn up and say, I want to talk about this or I want to talk about that. All right, cool, let's press record and talk about it. So those calls are a lot of fun, and the feedback that I've received has been sensational. So you get access to about 50 member calls instantly when you sign up at johnlebon.com. And I know that some people are hesitant to sign up to a truth website. Again, my website is not about the truth, and it's not even about conspiracies. It's about entertainment, and my form of entertainment is looking at what you think you know and why, or what I thought I knew and why. And in this case, we're looking at the Asch experiments, which I completely used to believe, and then going through the process of researching through it and learning about the truth of that particular matter, but also how our brains work and how the masses work and how the act realm works and these kinds of things. So you might be hesitant to sign up to a member-based truth website, but it's really more about entertainment. And most of us spend a lot of money on entertainment every week, every month, every year. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars, really thousands of dollars we're spending on entertainment. And the beauty of what I'm doing with my website is it's interactive. So it's not about agreeing with what I say or disagreeing. It's about having a conversation, which you can be on through the Discord server. You get instant access to the Discord server, the JLB exclusive Discord server, where there's people there chatting about things all the time. And then once a week we have the member Discord calls. And I'm going to put to you that in terms of value for money, this is way better entertainment value for money than movie tickets, Hollywood films, even Netflix. I know a lot of people love Netflix, but if you're one of those people who binge watches Netflix, is it really entertaining, or are you just numbing your brain? It's not interactive, it's passive, you're just sitting there watching. Whereas this material encourages you to think about what you believe. And so you can find yourself getting involved in these long conversations with people on the Discord server. And yeah, for the equivalent of a few dollars a week, I put to you, this is much better entertainment. And on top of that, it's not just the cost in terms of the money, but in terms of your time, because you can always make more money later. You spend money on something, you can make that back later. You can get a different job, or you can work extra shifts or start a side hustle, which is something I encourage people to do. You can get more money later, okay? What you can't get back is your time. And so if you do care about some of these topics, such as the Asch experiment, think to yourself, how much time have you wasted listening to people fill your brain with nonsense, okay? And then you have to go back later and realize, oh, I was being lied to. How much of your time has been wasted listening to clowns, fools, and charlatans? Because that's time you're never going to get back. Whereas with my work here at johnlebon.com, I'm not saying that everything I tell you is going to be correct, but I'm telling you that if I'm wrong about something, and you know that I'm wrong, you can tell me and I can correct myself. That's the beauty of it. And it's not just me, it's all the other people on the website. It's very collaborative. And so the time wasting that you get in the rest of the Act realm, which is a bunch of parrots parroting each other's nonsense, groupthink, that will suck you in, they'll waste your time you'll never get back. So when you're looking at how you spend your time in the Act realm, think of it in that sense. You are spending your time. How are you spending your time? Is it passive, receiving nonsense from people? Or is it interactive, encouraging you to think, be part of the conversation, even come along to a call? And the best part of the calls too is, I'm the one that goes back and edits them and makes them sound, I don't want to say professional, but I think they sound pretty good. And I think if you listen to the free first hour, you'll agree they sound pretty good. All you have to do is just sit there and talk. I'll take care of the call, release it the next day or the day after that, usually within 48 hours. And how you get to be part of a professional sounding discussion that is not available anywhere else. So you get a lot in return for what is effectively a small entrance fee. And the other thing you have to remember too is the Act realm is full of people who have a loser or a victim mentality. And these are people who will never ever support independent media, and they'll never part way with money for this kind of website. And so what the entrance fee does is it filters out the losers and the victim mentality people. Now, you might have heard some people suggest that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And 5 seems to me to be an arbitrary figure. I think depending on how much time you spend with them and what your relationship is with them, it could be the 2, 3 people you spend the most time with. It could be the 8 or 9 or 10. It can vary. But as a rule of thumb, I do believe that you are largely affected by the people you spend the most time with, whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And in the Act realm, outside of johnlebon.com, what kind of people are you mixing with? If you're mixing with people who truly see themselves as victims, if you're mixing with people who truly believe that their lives are hopeless, they can't hope for more, if you're mixing with people who attack anybody who's successful, such as myself, JLB's making money with his website, we're going to try and drag him down, that's a tall poppy syndrome, that's a crab in the bucket mentality, then you know that what they're also signaling to you is if you're ever successful, if you do well for yourself, if you put time and effort into building a website like I've done for the last 4 years, if you do all of this and get successful, they'll try and drag you down too. If that's who you're spending your time with, loser mentality, victim mentality, crabs in a bucket, people who really don't believe that anyone could, should, or will succeed in life on their own, then what effect do you think that's having on you? I can tell you that at johnlebon.com and our Discord server, it's the complete opposite. It's people supporting each other, uplifting each other. It's people saying, well, what are you trying to do? That sounds cool. What can I do to help you? Yeah, that's the way it should be. And I used to think the Act realm either was like that or would be like that. No, it attracts too many people who truly believe that the world is out to get them. And if you've spent any time studying people with victim mentalities, you know there's no changing that person. That's how they're going to be. And so who are you being affected by? Whether it's the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people you spend the most time within the Act realm, what is their fundamental nature? What kind of vibes are they sending to you? And what effect is that having on you? I think if it weren't for my website, the Act realm would have sent me, probably would have got me very angry and negative and sort of despondent about my own place in life, because you've got everyone telling you can't succeed, you won't succeed, you know, you're a victim, someone's out to get you. But over the last year or two, I've actually had once a week a call with people who they're successful professionally, they're successful socially, they're successful financially. These people are successful, and successful people want to see other people be successful. It's only losers who want to see everyone else be a loser to keep them down at their level. And so the entrance fee, even though I get criticized for it, was the smartest thing I ever did. Because what it's saying is, to get into this website, you have to be someone who does not have a crab in a bucket mentality. You have to be someone who does not have a negative attitude towards me or towards the other people on the website. And what that means is that once people get in there, they're like, wow, this is so different to the rest of the Act realm. Yeah, I know, how cool is it? It's actually kind of strange to go back into the rest of the Act realm with all of the crabs in a bucket, be like, this is how people are, I forgot. I used to put up with this for like 2 years straight. It's crazy stuff. So yes, if you want to see the rest of this particular video / podcast and more than 100 hours of exclusive content, get your name in the credits, and just hang out with people who don't have a loser mentality, if that's what you're interested in, check the links in the info box below and come and sign up as a member of johnlebon.com. What have you got to lose? If you don't like it after 1 month, just cancel. It's not hard, but People rarely do that these days. People tend to stick around and they tend to say, wow, I wish I joined sooner. Yeah, I wish you joined sooner as well. But you're here now, better late than never.